Well, you made it to lesson 7 of 7, or day 7 of 7, if you've done them one at a time each day. And today is probably the most important one. We're going to bring everything together and talk about people. Any business that you ever do in life is relating to people. I remember when I was in seventh grade, and I still remember his name. I don't remember the name of all the teachers I ever had. So if I remember a teacher's name, that means they really stood out. But Mr. Beach, my seventh grade social studies teacher, talked about how every job that we would ever do, every position we would ever have in life, success would depend on relating to people. And as his example, he said, let's say that you are a reclusive hermit author and you just live in this apartment, and you pass your manuscript under the door to your agent or something, and you just sit in there with a typewriter. Of course, this was the 80s, so he said typewriter, not computer. And but let's say you just type out your books and slip them under the door to your manager, and you don't bathe, and you order all your food in, and you let your fingernails go crazy long. I guess you couldn't let them go too crazy long if you're using a typewriter, but the point is just let yourself go. He said you still have to relate to people, even if your books made you incredibly wealthy, because you have to relate to people at least through your books. Because if you can't write compelling characters, and if you can't relate to human nature enough to write stories that other people would be interested in following and paying money for, then you're not relating to people. And at some point, you had to get that agent somehow, the agent that you're passing the manuscripts to under the door. So that was Mr. Beach's fun example of how every success involves somehow relating to people in some way. Even if you don't really interact with them face to face all the time, in some aspect of what you're doing, if you're successful, relates to people. So we're going to talk about people here. So in no particular order, I kind of wrote down the things that I want to make sure we cover before we finish this formal 7-day class. And you can always continue at any time with $20 a month for the Game Masters Council, the Game Shop's Basement Game Masters Council. And so for $20 a month, which is just a little bit more than an MMO subscription, which most of us gamers kind of squeeze out of our budget anyway, you'll be able to follow along with us as we sort of explore this new emerging industry together and help each other through this new emerging industry of professional game mastering, because it is an industry and it's growing with no end in sight. So that being said, what are the final thoughts about dealing with people, about bringing your business all together? Well, the first one here, the number one thing that I did that really expanded things, it's not just I think it expanded things, I saw it expand things that day, got me instant results, was if you go to the games that I list at startplaying.games, you'll see that I've got session zeros, which is the next thing I'll talk about. But for the actual paid games, it says in the subtitle of the game, it'll say, like, for instance, Return to Dragonlance, : and then the subtitle. Or Mysteries of Mystara, : and then the subtitle. The subtitle is regular paid ongoing campaign, but observers are free, in all capital letters. Now, the day that I did that, I doubled the attendance in my Discord games. Like, I would have 3, 4, 5 people who were paid players, and then on top of that, I would have 3, 4, 5 people who were observers. And not only does this make your Discord look good, some new person comes along and go, ooh, crowded Discord, big game. So not only does it look good, but also about half of those observers become paid players. Sometime in the next week, 2 weeks, one guy took a month. I would say it's maybe somewhere between a third and half of them will eventually become paid players. And that's nice to see, but it instantly doubled my traffic, doubled my attendance, and got me more paid players. So, which is how we fund this operation. So the whole observers are free. Sometimes we call them lurkers. A really sophisticated friend of mine calls them audience members. I got some feedback once from a gentleman who said, yeah, I wasn't sitting by my computer watching your game visually, like right there on, in a chair. I was just kind of going around my house doing my thing, doing my night, listening in the background. And he said, and that was really entertaining. And then I thought, there used to be a form of entertainment like that. It was called radio. So there used to be radio shows where people would listen to dramas and shows and things. So I took that as a really good compliment. I've also heard people say, and I take this as a very deep compliment too, because Matt Mercer, Critical Role, that's very successful and everything. So somebody said, hey, listening to you guys is just like Critical Role. And I thought, well, thank you. I take that as a very high compliment indeed. So observers are free. So start encouraging people to be part of a free audience. Okay. Not only, even if it's just cool. It's cool stuff. And a lot of them will turn into paying players anyway. Okay. Session zeros. Now, session zeros, if you look at the games that I post at startplaying.games, some of them will say free, no risk. I like that word when I sell stuff. No risk, free session zero. And what this is people get a chance to come into the Discord, meet me, chat with me, and about half of them, actually in the beginning it was about half, and it's actually more now. It's not 100%, there's nothing perfect in life, but more than half of them join my games. I chat with them, I talk with them about what they're looking for. I always ask them when gaming will fit in their life, because we've got these schedules and everything. And then I'll start pulling their attention on the left of the Discord. If you've seen the Game Shop's Basement Discord, there's this schedule of when the games are. And I start talking, well, when would this one work for you? Would this one work for you? And sometimes I create new games for people, new sessions if I've got room in my week for that session. So the session zero allows people to come in, meet you for free, talk to you about gaming for free. The very first day that I did this back in May, and in case somebody's watching this in the future, May 2021. But when I did this back in May, there were 4 people there. 2 of them became paid players who are paid players to this day. 2 of them were like, nah, this doesn't sound like it's for me. Never heard or saw from them again. But that's great because that's 50% retention. Any business that has 50% retention is a great business because you just keep going. If there was 50% retention and you wanted 100 customers, go talk to 200 people. If there was 50% retention and you wanted 500 customers, just go talk to 1,000 people and you'll get the 500. So 50% retention, that's awesome. And these days it's a little higher than that for me. I'd say a little more than half of the people end up joining games and becoming paid clients, paid customers. But session zeros give people a way to meet you, figure out whether you're for them, because not everybody is for everybody. I'm not for everybody. Fortunately, I'm for somebody, and the somebodies that I'm for, we have a lot of fun together. But nobody is for everybody. So session zeros, and then we want to create a community. So we want to have things for people to do other than just show. Now, gaming should be fun. You should be an awesome game master, and they should be like, whoa, wow, mind-blowing game master. But you should also give things for people to do besides just show up and play. So if you go to GameShopsBasement.com, one feature that I added early on because it's easy, but I've been neglecting it because I've been making these courses, so I need to get back to it, is in-game quote of the week. Because when you game, maybe not every session, but quite often, there's that one comment that just gets everybody to bust up laughing, and it just stops the game for just a moment while everybody laughs. And so we nominate quote of the week. And I put up a little poll on the website. I know the other day I did a lesson on how to put up a quick website, bare bones website. One of the things that we could possibly get into in the Basement Council of Game Masters is we could get into the little things that I added like that. I could show you the polling site that I use for the poll, but I have people vote for quote of the week. And it's fun. It kind of fell by the wayside while I make these lessons, but I got to get back into it. And because people talk about quote of the week and people nominate things that other people have said for quote of the week. So it's really fun. I even, when I get back to it, there's a nomination from an NPC, which I guess would be me, but I didn't plan on it. I wasn't trying for it. I guess what I said was just so funny that somebody said, I nominate that NPC for quote of the week. And this NPC actually called the party Murder Hobos in universe in the story. you know, may the gods damn ye murder hobos messing in my business and stuff. Because, I am of the philosophy that in some of these D&D adventuring worlds, because adventurers behave badly a lot, that maybe the commoners and some of the NPCs of that universe, because they don't know they're NPCs, a commoner probably knows they're a commoner. A farmer or a butcher or a tailor or a blacksmith, they probably know they're a commoner, but they don't know they're NPCs. They have lives, as far as they know. And so and the more realistic you can make this, and this is something we'll get into in Game Shop's Basement Council of Game Masters, but the more realistic you can make the fabric of the society of the NPCs, and the more you can make them like people, and you want your world to be like a living MMO better than an MMO, because you can flesh out all sorts of things. One example, the party was in a town. Now, not in every place in D&D is there so much magic that you can just buy magic items off the shelf. There are many, many areas in D&D where that's not even possible, because, magic is not so common as to be a commodity that you buy and sell. That's crazy. But there are a few places in D&D where that can happen. And so the party was in a town, and they found this sword that had pluses on it, but they found another that was like for 18,000 gold or something like that. Then there was another one, it had pluses on it, plus some extra abilities. And it was only 19,000 gold, so there was only like 1,000 difference in price. And I explained that when I assign prices for things, when people go shopping, I try to imagine a real world. Because whenever you find something at a crazy price in real life, there's a story behind it. And so, for instance, like that 18,000, that was like the regular price. But that 19,000, see, the craftsman had to craft that one, and he needed his return on his investment because he'd crafted it. But that 19,000 one, some party of adventurers lost a member, and that was the dead member's sword, and no one else was going to use it because maybe nobody else in their party used a sword like that, or the people in the party who had swords already had better swords or something. So they just pawned that one. And so the merchant could afford to sell that one for a lower price because he hadn't invested crafting in that one. So there's stories behind things. And if you just think about the stories you've seen, this is stuff for Game Masters Council later. But anyway, I want to stick to, there's so much fun we're going to have in the future here. We're going to build this industry, this whole professional GMing thing. But anyway, and I've had people asking me already, like, they're like, oh, I can't wait to talk about how to DM and how to world build and stuff. I'm like, okay, we'll get there. Okay, I'll pull myself back here. We want to talk about the business side right now. Okay, so we also want to think about our story theme or our feel and flavor. Because one way that you could approach this is you could approach it as like a cult of personality. Like I could make it all about GM John, who's the world's greatest dungeon master and all that. Well, I know that's not true. I am pretty awesome. But, I mean, the greatest has got to be out there somewhere, right? But anyway, if you try to be like Susie Q, the perfect, or, Joe Wonderful, the amazing, that only gets you so far. What we're looking for is a community and how you build a community. So you want to think about the feel you have for your group. And your group doesn't have to feel like mine, and probably shouldn't. It should feel like your group. So my group, for example, the Game Shop's Basement is, I found it, I was just telling these stories like an old fogey, like I'm 50 now, and I was just telling these stories about growing up in a Game Shop's basement. And, growing up gaming in a basement of the Game Shop. And I was telling these stories to people, and I realized that I was telling these stories a lot. Like, there would be people that had already heard these stories, and I was telling them again for the new people, and the old people were just kind of putting up with it. And so I decided I need to write this down so I can just reference it and move on. And I just made it my brand, Game Shop's Basement. And so a friend of mine was kind of looking at our website and everything and saying, he said, you've got kind of an old-timey feel going on because you're trying to you're saying that you're bringing back this feeling of before the internet, how gamers would actually find each other socially in the physical world and what it felt like to be part of a group like that. I say, you're not wrong. That's exactly what we're doing here. So that's the feeling that we're going for. But you can go for a totally different feeling. You figure out what your style is, because we're all going to apply these things in our own different ways for different styles. But if you can come up with a something that's your style, and apply that, you're going to build the right group around you. And what I mean by the right group, not everyone is for everyone. There's people that I've totally turned off. But that's life. Whether you're pro DMing, or whether you're just a kid going to school, or whether you're a person going to a job, or whatever you're doing in life, you're going to meet people. Some of them you're going to groove with, and some of them you're just going to turn off, because no one is for everyone. So you will attract the people around you that are going to fit in your group and be good for your group. So with that in mind, then, one thing that I've done is I made a YouTube channel, and I talked about it a little bit on one of the previous lessons. So my YouTube channel is to serve our group. I'm not trying to compete with the other Marvel Universe gurus, with the other Mystara gurus, Dragonlance gurus, Shadowrunner Star Wars gurus. The internet has plenty of people. Just pick a franchise, and there's gurus out there way more knowledgeable than I am, and with a lot more time invested in it. I'm just trying to serve our group and our table canon and talk about what we do. And I tie the videos in to what's happening at our table whenever I can. And I mention people, things that their characters have done and stuff like that. And refer to things that have happened in the group, like, yes, I'm talking about this new creature today, and there are some people who met some of these creatures recently, like Tuesday night or whatever. Make it alive, bring it, make it about. I've had people contact me and go, wow, thanks for mentioning my character. So now one of the things we're going to be doing soon, and we'll talk about it as we expand, as Game Shop's Basement Council of Game Masters moves forward, is I'm in the process of coming up with the right legal waiver, like kind of like a podcast guest waiver, so that I can actually have people on the YouTube channel besides me. I've had people ask me if I could interview people's characters, kind of like a reality show, like Survivor Island or Bachelor or Bachelorette, or Real World Roommates in the House, or some kind of reality type show. And actually talk to people about like The Office or something, and talk to people about what it was like to be in that group. Yeah, we did definitely needed a spell. We needed the mage to pull something at that point, but I'm not sure that was the right spell. It didn't go well. Just have people, but I'm working on, and I'll share it in Game Shop's Council of Game Masters. It's something that's coming soon, is I need to come up with the right waiver. Because in business before, that's how I kind of threw all this together. If you read my story in my bio, is I've done entrepreneurial things on the internet before for years and years and years. And so I'm applying all the things that I knew, how to do a website, how to draw together community, all that kind of stuff, how to come up with a brand. I'm just applying that all now. But, I've had some business partners stab me in the back. I've had a business partner try to steal one of my businesses before. He was working in another state, supposedly representing me, and he was not representing me. He was basically claiming that the business was his own, and he was trying to get this company that I was working with, a vendor service type company, to sign a contract with him that would recognize him as the owner of my business without me involved. Now, I wouldn't have minded, because this guy was supposed to be my partner. So I wouldn't have minded if he would have represented things honestly, like it's him and me and we're partners. But he tried to sign this contract that didn't have me in it at all. So, I got wind of this, and I called up that vendor company, and I told them that from now on they were working with me directly, or not at all, because that man is no longer with my company. He is no longer associated with me in any way as of now. And so things fell apart for him. He had actually arranged to have an office and a desk on site at their brick and mortar site for their company and stuff. And he was like in their break room and, I'm an independent consultant with this company, blah, 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 that John Clement is building. I'm just not telling people John Clement even really exists. I'm just pretending it's me. And like, people do stuff. So you do not want someone that was on your podcast or on your YouTube video blog or something. You don't want somebody coming at you 5 years later saying, I was on your show once for 2 seconds. You owe me a bunch of money because you used my image or something. I'm like, what? Go get a life and talk to my lawyer. Anyway, so you need to make sure that the proper legal stuff is in place first. So we're gonna, that's something that's happening right now. It's like my next big project after I finish these lessons is to kind of put more reality show episodes on the YouTube channel, where we actually start to bring in people from the community and make it about them, because it's about your community. I was going to save this for last, but I'm going to mention it now because I think it connects now. On startplaying.games, I am proud of my reviews, all of them. But the review that I am the most proud of is there's a review that wasn't just like John's great or whatever. It said that our group was great. That this person enjoyed spending time with us, our group. And I'm like, yes, that is the magic. That is what we're building. So, yeah, and the thing, I'm so blessed. I have people all the time come in there, noobs, total noobs, and they're kind of apologetic about it. They're like, yeah, I hope that people have patience with a new person or whatever. And I know my group is good. Don't worry. They'll take you in and they'll show you everything. Of course, they have gaming would not have become what it is. Okay. Gaming would not have spread like it has if gamers were not always willing to help new people get in, or most gamers anyway. I mean, I guess there's jerks in every demographic group, so I guess there could be jerk gamers, but most gamers are just, yeah, they're more than happy to show people the ropes, let them in, and show them what's going on. That's how we get more gamers. So let's see, what else did I want to make sure I talked to you about? I got 2 ideas left. One idea is don't wait for life to be perfect. This is a general success thing that I would teach no matter what kind of business I was teaching. This is for life. Do not, during the 60 days or 50 days. Yeah, I started this on 50 days. I started recording the first one on day 50 of these lessons. It's been a few weeks. It's been kind of slow going. But during the first 50, 60 days of me doing this, including recording some of these lessons, one morning, my wife and I woke up in our home and, the plumbing had been acting crazy, but we had a plumber appointment that day and we thought, hey, no problem. We've been kind of putting up with this craziness for a little while now, but the plumber's going to come over and take care of this. We got an appointment today. Well, the plumber comes over and the plumber tells us we got to move. The plumber tells us that nothing from the house is draining into the sewer. Everything's backing back up. Yeah, sure, the toilet's flush for now, but they're not actually going into the sewer. And if you keep flushing them, eventually they won't flush. So we moved instantly. Instantly we moved. Like, we weren't planning to move. Well, we were planning to move in a longer term plan, but we weren't planning to suddenly move short term that day. So yeah, we had to move, and I was still driving to the old place to use the internet for my games, for startplaying.games, Game Shop's basement. And then I tried to have the internet moved here to our new place, and there was problems with that. And so I was using my emergency hotspot on my phone, and trying to conserve the bandwidth because that gets throttled at some point. It was crazy. But the thing is, do not think that everything has to be perfect. Okay? If you wait, and I've heard this a long time ago, I've seen it on posters, I've seen it in success books, maybe you have too, but if you wait for things to be perfect, you'll never get started. Okay? There will always be crap coming up. Always. There will never be a time that crap isn't coming up. So you have to be a steamroller, and you just have to steamroller over that crap and do what you're going to do with your life anyway. It's the only way anybody who's ever succeeded has ever done it. We may not know about their crap, because we don't know them personally. Like right now, as I record this, like the Olympics has been a recent big thing. I guarantee you, if we could go to the Olympics and interview those people and learn about their lives, each one of those people on their way to becoming an Olympian has had some kind of crap happen to them more than once, multiple times. That's life. So when you see somebody who's successful, there's been crap happen on the way, because crap happens to us all. So you can't let that stop you. You can do this. If you have the burning desire, like I did when you found out that pro GMing was a thing and you realized, I got to find my way into this. If you've paid for this course and you've listened to me all the way to lesson 7, then you have the determination to do this. You absolutely do. So don't wait for things to be perfect. And my final thought is, and I'll explain what I mean, but the final thought is be cool to people. Of course, that sounds very Bill and Ted, Be excellent to each other, okay? Blah. Okay, just be cool to people, okay? And what that looks like, what that means is, I mentioned before, it's not all about you. It's not all about the cult of Joe Wonderful DM or Susie Q Perfect DM or even GM John, okay? It's about building that group of friends. They're just friends who pay you, because that's what we do these days. We don't go to the game shop's basement anymore. Now we're on the internet and money gets exchanged. But you want to build that gaming group, the group of people that you'd invite to your house to game anyway. The most fun games that I DM professionally are the ones where I forget it's professional, because I'm DMing for people that I would love to have at my house and DM for anyway. But so don't be that GM. Now, this is a topic we're going to expand upon in the Game Shop's Basement Council of Game Masters, because I've already had lots of conversations with people, and I'm like remembering and trying to save these ideas. It's like, oh, this will be great stuff to talk about. I want to talk about a couple of them here now, though. Just to make sure that we there's a couple of them I think are kind of so important, just to get the idea across here in the original 7-day course. And it's don't be that GM. And there's all kinds of examples of that GM. We could probably do this big long video series, don't be that GM, and then come up with an example. But just a couple examples of things that I've heard of lately. I've heard from a player from a player with a player. I heard it kind of secondhand about a game master, and apparently this happens more than once. Or this isn't just one person, but apparently there's game masters who are aspiring novelists. I've written novels, that's great. But apparently they try to make their novels flow out of their gaming sessions. And they like to pretend that the players are going to be characters in their novels. Well, the thing is, the players aren't characters in their novels. The players aren't their characters at all. The players are the players' characters. And so when the player's characters don't act the way the game master thinks they would in this story, in this novel that he's trying to create, he or she gets mad. I've heard of that happening. Just a DM has to stay in control without being a control freak. And that's kind of a fine line. That's things we're going to talk about in the Council of Game Masters. But yes, you need to always be in control without being a control freak. Okay, that is kind of a fine thing. And let's see, what was this other idea here? Yes. Okay, so I've heard about, especially this specifically, I think, a pro DMing problem. I've had several people come up to me on Discord and talk about experiences they've had, and I get people this way. I'm talking specifically about sob stories of why people don't play at other tables anymore and why they've come to mine. The sob story about this terrible experience they had, and now they come to mind. So, real examples, it's happened way more than once, just in the past couple months, I've had people come to me, and there's different styles of DMing and everything, but I've had people come to me and say, John, one of the things I appreciate about you is that you run your table. And what they mean by that, when they explain, is that they came from a table where the players ran the table. the players just ran roughshod over the DM, even to the extent of ruining other players' fun. So the DM was letting the players run the table to the point where players could form little cliques and groups and have favoritism, and players could like ostracize or shun or screw over other players, and the DM did nothing. The DM just, and one gentleman that told me one of these types of stories approached the GM privately and discussed it with the GM. And the GM's attitude was, well, they're paying money. I have to let them do what they want because they're paying money. And, but now there is a little truth to that. However, when you let one group beat up on, I mean, not literally beat up on, not physically beat up on, but when you let them trample, there's a good word, when you let one group trample the fun of another group, or you let a group of players mess up the experience, yes, they paid to have a fun experience, but so did this person over here. And you let one group of people trample on another people, maybe it is time that somebody walks away from that table. So don't be that GM, one thing that I've always done, last little thought before we close this down, but it's not the end. It's just the end of the 7-day course. It's the Game Masters Basement. The Council of Game Masters is just launching. So is one thing I always did all the way back to when I was a teenager that really, really worked well for me was transfer characters. I would be in the game shop that was above the game shop's basement in the 80s when I was a kid, or the 90s when I was a college kid, and I'd be talking with people in the game shop, just gamers talking, and people would talk about their beloved character, the character that they used to play back in the day before the GM moved away, or the GM got married, or they got married, or they had kids, or they needed a second job, or they changed shifts at work and couldn't meet at the same time that the other players did, or everybody just graduated and moved away, or whatever. For all sorts of reasons, that campaign broke up. But there was this beloved character, and I'm just pretending this is the character sheet here, like the beloved character Thalandar. And Thalandar had waited in this game folder, and this person just talked about Thalandar like it was his dead brother, his dead best friend, his dead puppy. Like, oh, I miss Thalandar so much. And I thought, well, why don't you play Thalandar at my table? Because the thing is, there are DMs, lots of them. Again, don't be that DM, just connecting it to the previous thought, that are like, oh no, don't bring a previously played character from another table. That's like contaminated. Like, your character must have started at first level under me, at my table, and I must have seen every dice roll over your shoulder, and I must have awarded every magic item they've ever gotten, and I must have awarded every experience point they've ever gotten. And I'm like, okay, control freak, that's not the feeling I play D&D for, and I'm pretty sure it's not the feeling most people play D&D for, but whatever. If you get players, more power to you. So this guy would be like, oh, the guy missing Thalandar now. It's like, I just can't find another DM that would let me play Thalandar. And I'm like, why don't you play Thalandar at my table? Oh, no, Thalandar is like 14th level. I'm sure it's too high for your table. Well, the average level at my table right now is 12 because we've been playing for a while. So 14 wouldn't raise the average too much. Come on. Oh, no. Thalandar has homebrew magic items from the previous DM. I'm sure you wouldn't want them at your table. You know what? I also have homebrew magic items at my table. I'm pretty sure there's nothing that's really game-breaking, and if there was, we'd work it out. Why don't you bring him and his stuff? They'd be kind of skeptical, but then, really, I could play Thalandar? I'm like, yeah, sure, come on. And they would act like kids at Christmas. And I had a devout player for years, even after they moved on from Thalandar. And at that point, they didn't care about me. They didn't know me. I was just a goofy teenage high school kid or 20-something college kid. They didn't know about my DMing style or respect my storytelling or anything like that. They wanted to play Thalandar again. And so, transfer characters, they're a thing. Okay, we all love some of our old beloved characters that we've invested like years with, that we have all sorts of fond memories of, that are just like a piece of our personality. There's a character that one of my very first characters as a teenager sat in a folder for 22 years. And then I got to play him under another DM with my sons, with their teenage fun characters. And that was awesome. So, yeah, transfer characters, they're a thing. If you just work with people, most of the time, if you work with people, they'll work with you. Of course, there's some jerks in the world, but most of the time, if you work with people, they'll work with you. And that's really what this is it's working with people in a really fun way. Let's get paid to play D&D. All right? Find me on Discord, chat me up sometime, and to get into our content and to get around other game masters in this exploding industry, check out the Game Masters, or the Basement Council of Game Masters. Game Masters Council in the basement. All right, I don't want to close this. This is so exciting, but it's not really closing. It's just beginning. So if you think you can at all, get into that Basement Game Masters Council. All right. And this is kind of my sign off. I don't remember to always use it, but it's what I do at the end of a lot of my videos. I'll see you in game.